Hello. So I'm gonna use those little bottles over there for an example. So one night I went with the Jade Wolf Coven to Joe's Volcano in San Antonio, Texas. I don't know if the club is still open or not, but I had gone there. And there were several incidents that had occurred. So this was before my now dead ex-husband and I had gone through the first separation. It was before that. So went to the club, and no, I take that back. We were separated because I was staying at Mike and Christine's house. My mistake. And so it was during the first separation. So Jamie, who had started Jade Wolf Coven from Seguin, Texas, and then Christine, who is from Abilene, Texas, with Jamie's husband, Steve, at the time, was there. And then Tina was there as well, as far as the group of us. Obviously, I was there. And so I had driven over. Christine had ridden in my car. It wound up being safer for her that night. I'll get to that. So we show up, meet, whatever, park and stuff like that, get into the club. We're all talking and hanging out, dance every now and then. And then Christine says, "Hey, Susan, I want a drink." And I look at her and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not stopping you. You know, I mean, you have your choice. You have your free will. You can drink. I don't care. I'm not going to drink. But that's also because I'm driving. And I don't, at that time I also didn't understand the aspects of the head injury and drinking. However, more along the lines of I was driving. So because I was driving, I wasn't going to be drinking. I had known people, and then there were I knew people who had died because of prom night. I had met people who had lost loved ones because of prom night. And not just those scenarios, but because I was younger. My pastor at Old Tenet Presbyterian Church, his sister died because of prom night. Whether you believe spirit stuff or not, I actually met her spirit when I was walking around the loop in Old Tenet Presbyterian Church's cemetery. And this was before I had known that Pastor Mackenzie's sister was there. I didn't know that Cookie was her name. And I had walked around, and I had been around that loop I don't know how many times. I mean, I grew up going to the church because my biological parents, one was a deacon and one was a trustee. My biological mother was a deacon, my biological father was a trustee. So I had walked the grounds many times. Not once had I met her up until that point, and she showed up in this light blue dress, and it had these poofy sleeves and poofy bottom sort of stuff, kind of ruching around the top part of her dress, and her hair was down, but it was curly and kind of a light brown. And she had come up to me, and glitter everywhere. She's so pretty, looked beautiful. And she said that she wanted to be moved closer to her brother. At that time, I knew the difference between, seeing spirits and seeing the living. And so I spoke with her for a while. She, told me a bunch of stuff, and she didn't tell me at that point that who her brother was. She didn't say. She just said she wanted to be moved closer to her brother. And I was like, okay. I mean, I was a child at that time, so what was I gonna? Who's your brother? And when I grew up, you didn't say adult names. You didn't say like Mr. Hugh. You didn't say Ms. Mandy. You said Pastor Mackenzie. You said Mrs. Mackenzie or whatever her last name. I think it was that. But nonetheless, you did not ever, at least the way I grew up. So that was a big issue for me to get accustomed to in the state of Texas. I don't deny that. However, especially after waking up from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, it took me a while when it came to when my children were introduced. Like, oh, that's what you do? Okay. Wow, okay. Is that something that's been going on a while? Or is that just because of where I was raised in comparison? Okay. Not trying to be rude. Nonetheless, so before going on with the rest of the aspect, which I'll get into, I finished talking with Cookie for a while, and then I go back towards, it was Old Scots Hall. And when I got to Old Scots Hall, I saw Pastor Mackenzie, and I was like, oh, Pastor Mackenzie. And he's like, yes, Susan, what would you like to discuss today? I don't know who to talk about this with, too. And he was like, okay, well, come on in the office. Okay. And I went in the office, and he Pastor Mackenzie was getting whatever ready for the following Sunday sermon, and he said, okay, what do you want to talk about? Do you have a question? Because I was always asking questions. And I was just like, well, what about this spiritually? Well, Susan, you're just being a child, so on and so forth. And so I had told him that I had been walking around in the Loop area. And he looked at me and goes, you were? And I said, yeah. What were you doing out there? And I told him, I said, I just felt like walking out there. I've walked out there a bunch of times. And he got real quiet, and he said, what happened when you were out there? And I said, well, it was really weird because I've been out there before. He goes, yeah, I know, but you wouldn't be coming to me without a question. So now I'm kind of nervous. That's what the pastor said. And I was like, so I met someone out there. And he goes, oh, one of your little spirits that you see. Okay, Susan, why don't you tell me about the spirit you saw? And as he said that like that, he starts filing stuff in the cabinet, and then he goes to the bookshelf. And I looked at him and I was like, Pastor Mackenzie, I don't think you're taking me seriously. And Susan, just get on with it, do. Yes, what, you have a question, get to it. Okay, Pastor Mackenzie, so I met this female who wants to be moved closer to her brother. And he said, oh, okay, oh, she just wants to be moved closer to her brother. Okay, what's her brother's name? I don't know. Oh no, Pastor Mackenzie, she didn't tell me. She told me his name was Hugh, but like that was all. And at that point, then Pastor Mackenzie sat down in his chair, and he just, oh my God, what did you just say, Susan? And I was like, so her name is Cookie, and he turned pale, and I was like, and she was wearing this dress, and it was it almost a little bit more blue than this. And, and then described the whole thing. And his skin was getting paler and paler and then more and more translucent. And I was just like, yeah. And so you're the first person I saw after speaking with her. So how do I get her moved closer to her brother? Because she misses her brother and she just wants to let him know that, everything's going to be okay. Well, I do. Who do I talk with about that, Pastor Mackenzie? I mean, you're the pastor of the church. So, who am I supposed to ask? And then I was told to get out of the office. And I needed to find my biological parents. And Pastor Mackenzie did not want to speak with me for a while. Apparently, Cookie was his sister. She had died during prom night. And so, but I didn't learn that just yet at that point. So one day, however many weeks later, I wound up seeing her. She was sitting where I had seen her last, and she was like, "Oh, you're back." And I was like, "Yeah." She said, what happened? Did you see my brother? I don't know. Like, I tried speaking with Pastor Mackenzie. He's a pastor? Yeah, is that your brother? Is Pastor Mackenzie your brother? And she said, he comes out here every now and then. And so we discussed what he would wear, and I was like, oh, that's Pastor Mackenzie. She was like, he did say he's a pastor here. I was like, yeah, he's a chaplain in the army too. She was like, oh, well, that's awesome. We start talking. And then she was like, so is he going to move me closer? Because, like, I need to tell him some stuff. And I was like, well, he told me to get out of his office. He's kind of mad at me. And I had to go deal with my biological parents and stuff. And then she got really mad and went from the beautiful, beautiful gown to her dress was tattered, covered in blood. I was shown, and I was one of those. So I'm not going to drink and drive. That's the end of that story. And she was very upset with me for not getting her brother's attention enough. And so but I knew not, and I remember that from before my head injury. So when I was out with the Jade Wolf Coven, and Christine was like, I'm going to get soda, you go right ahead. You go drink to your heart's content because I'm not drinking. And so I told everyone at the table that. And they were just like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Whatever, Susan, yeah, okay. Kind of like the Ouija board thing and your friend Damien, who you claim died when you were in 8th grade. Yeah, he did. He did. It was either 7th or 8th grade. We were in middle school. And yeah, no, he went to Robertsville School, which was right next to Asher Holmes. His elementary school, because of the district lines. We were both really upset that he didn't get to go to Asher Holmes, because he actually wanted to go to Asher Holmes instead of to Robertsville. And, but we still got to hang out whenever I went to Sony's house. And females in the Jade Wolf Coven, along with Jamie's husband, Steve, and we're like, oh, whatever, sure, and it's like, I can't tell a lie. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with you people. I mean, seriously, why are you so stupid? And then they got offended. And I was like, okay, well, fine. Whatever. I mean, Christine had claimed she had gone to nursing school. And I doubt that I'm the first person who had ever had a head injury on medical record sort of stuff. So I'm just throwing that out there. There has to be somebody before me who's had a head injury, maybe not necessarily on Palm Sunday in 2000, but that has had a head injury, and maybe there are issues with telling lies and that just being absolutely incapable. Maybe. I can't be the only person. I don't know. So, anyway, Christine just tells Jamie, I want to get floored. She wanted to get hammered, all this sort of stuff. And Jamie was like, well, Steve's friend, Pete, works at the bar. And when she said that, people could say it's intuition, people could say it military aspect, because there are those who have that understanding. And I was just, okay, I need to look around this place. Like, I already scanned the location. I already walked around to see where the different exits are. I feel like something's a little weird. And so I'm looking around, and there are different groups as per normal at a club. And, when Jamie had said that, she had looked to one area, and this group of guys, there were like 5 or 6 of them, she was like, yeah, I could take you to see Pete. That's the way she did it. And when she said that, Steve looked at the group of guys, and they all kind of at the same time. And I looked around, I didn't see anybody else in the nearby vicinity do that. And I was like, so I guess I'm going to go with you to the bar. And yeah. And so I go with them, and Christine is so happy. She's going to get alcohol. And, Jamie told Pete to make his specialty. Well, Pete said his specialty is Pete's Left Nut. That was the drink that he made. And he starts mixing it. And in no black lights. There were no black lights in the club. Okay? It's just regular club lighting. There was some way, over where the actual dance floor was, but not in this area of the corner bar. And I was just one of those, all right. And I'm watching him mix this drink, and his hands are moving fast, and all of a sudden, like, he didn't have alcohol pouring into it, but it started glowing, like a golden yellow. And I was just kind of like, how did it do that? And he looked at me and he goes, oh, were you watching me make that? And I said, yeah. How did it get to glowing? I've never seen, like, I don't drink, but, as I'm speaking with the bartender, I'm looking around, and that group of males started getting closer. And I'm just like, this is so weird. Like, why? And they weren't in line to get a drink. They were just leaning against the wall, but they had moved closer. And Jamie had looked back over to where that group was, and she said again the words, oh yeah, I'm gonna get you Pete's Left Nut. You're gonna get that drink from the bartender friend Pete. And the guys just kind of, and I was just, what is going on? What's happening? Like, something doesn't seem right. What's going on? I don't understand what's going on. And so the drink started bubbling, and it was just one of those, I'm gonna throw this out there, Pete. And he looks at me, he's like, yes, you're kind of cute. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Why is it glowing, and why is it fizzing? I get the name of the club is called Joe's Volcano, but, is it supposed to do that? And he just kind of stood up real quick and real straight, and he was like, yeah, yeah, you want me to make it? No. I am the designated driver. And no, definitely not that. And he was just, oh, but no. And he took a few steps, he put his hands up, I'm like, yeah, you best step back. And so then Christine ordered 2 beers along with that drink. And I'm like, are you sure you want to drink that? I mean, yeah, I'm going to drive you back to your husband and your house. But don't you think you should just, drink that before getting beer? Or, drink the beer first and then drink that? I mean, I don't know. I don't drink alcohol. Whatever. And so she had asked me to hold one of the 3 drinks. I'm just like, Okay. This is so weird. I don't think. Like, are you sure that drink is supposed to be fizzing still? And Pete was like, yeah, that's just part of it. Okay. Huh. Are you sure it's supposed to glow? Like, there's no lights over here. Like, why is it glowing? It looks like somebody cracked open, like, a chem light, yellow one, but like cracked open the chem light stick so that like after the glowing stuff started, like the chem light stuff was actually poured in there. That's what it looks like. And he's like, no, it's just the mix of the alcohol. What alcohol glows like that? Like, I mean, I know it's been a while, and I don't really drink, so that doesn't help. And if I do, it's usually wine, and even then, or something. But not that. When did alcohol start glowing? And the guy was just, you just need to be cool. And I was like, I'll be cool when I feel like being cool. I don't feel like being cool right now. And I don't know you, so we're not cool, okay? And he was just, for someone so small, and I get closer to the bar, I'm like, for someone so small, what? And he was just, how did you grow? And I'm like, someone so small, what? And, hey, just, you know what? You want a soda? No, I don't want anything from you. I turn around. By then, Christine and Jamie are back at the table, and that group of males are back over on the other side of Steve's shoulder, leaning against the wall. I was just like, that just doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. Something definitely does not feel right. So, Christine drinks this, whatever it was, glowing drink of Pete's left nut and whatever, and I was just, are you sure you really want to drink that? No, you want to? And she, funny of the name, she sucked it down. I mean, she really did. It was, by the time I got to the table, it was almost gone. And I was like, okay. Whatever. Sure. To each their own. And then she starts drinking the beer. And I was, And Steve is sitting next to Christine, and he starts rubbing her back. He's like, you feeling good? You feeling nice and warm? Look at him like, you need to keep your hands to yourself. You're with Jamie. And Jamie at that point actually looked at Steve and was like, excuse you? I was like, why do I have to be all responsible and stuff? Like, why? Why do I have to be all responsible? Ugh, alright, this is going to be an interesting evening. Alright, then. And Tina was not drinking because of the medications that she was on. And, it was just one of those, this is so weird. This is so weird. So then, we go dance. All the females went to go dance. And as we're dancing, I decided I'm going to get in the cage. I mean, it was, those who know dance clubs, there's always like a fully open section. It's not like you're actually in a cage. And, I get up in there and I'm looking, and they're, the females are like, oh, that's so great. And I'm looking, I'm like, and I was dancing, I was having a good time. But I get up the stairs, I get on the platform, I scan the room, and I'm like, And then I see Steve talking with that group of males. And I was just, And at that point, Jamie looks at me, she goes, Susan, what's wrong? And I was like, I just see something I don't feel comfortable with. At all. Like, whatsoever. And so the rest of the group, they get in the cage with me. And at that point, Steve turns around and gets back to the table. And I'm just, I don't feel comfortable. You know what? I gotta go to the restroom or latrine or whatever. I can't. And they were just like, no. I'm like, no. I need to. No. It's too much. So I actually, that yellow is almost as, it was a little bit more bright than that yellow. But yeah, that's a good example for the color of the drink. And so I go to the bathroom and I'm just, this, is not, it's, something is wrong. And I can't figure it out. So I get back to the table and Christine is just swaying back and forth. And so she has these beer bottles in her hands and she's just swaying and she goes this and then she starts lowering her head. She pops it back up and she goes, man, this table is so deep. And she slams her head on the table. And I was like, so that's the end of the night for you. Let's go. And Steve actually tried to get me to let her stay. I was like, I don't think so. That's not gonna happen. And he was like, no, she'll shake it off. I'm like, no, she'll shake it off at her husband's house. And not here with you. And Jamie at that point kind of was like, Susan, I've never seen you so, and I was like, you haven't known me that long. So you don't know how I am. This is to get to kind of know me, and this night is over for her. We're going. And Christine was like, oh, you're such a killjoy. I don't care. Get up. And she was, no, I don't want to. I'm like, get up. And she, okay. And she kind of stumbled, and I was like, to the car now. And I looked at Steve, and I was like, I don't trust you as far as I can throw you, and I can throw you far. Let me let you know that. You might be over 6 feet tall. Let me let you know, from where we are, you see that bar right there? And he looked and he's like, yeah, the one on the other side of the dance floor? Yeah, I can throw you to that. Like where the hanging part is. You'll go through that like little sticky thing and then you'll hit the wall and then you'll slide down. I can do that to you. Do not push me. Do you understand, boy? And he just, Jamie got a fan. I'm like, I know you know. Turned around and she's like, oh my God, I don't care. Don't care. Move to the car. Instant mom mode. To the car. To the car. Get her to the car. She threw up in the parking lot. Yeah, well, that'll at least clear that out of you. Whatever that was. And, you know, there was the group of guys. They turned around, went back in. Like, yeah. Get her to the car. Go back to Mike, her then husband's house, and her house. Get her inside, and I'm like, yeah. And Mike comes to the door, and he's like, hey, here's your wife. She's drunk. And he's like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well, you know, whatever. I can't even. And so, after he got her into bed, because apparently he was accustomed to dealing with that, and I'm sitting outside and I'm smoking, he comes out, he's like, what happened? I explained what happened. And he looked at me and he goes, okay. I'm like, I don't trust Steve. I'm letting you know that right now. I don't trust Steve at all. in any way. Not at all. I do not trust him. And I don't think you should either. And he just looked at me, he's like, it's kind of bold for you to say that. Well, I'm just telling you what I'm getting, and I don't trust him. Jamie, but not Steve. I don't trust Steve. I don't trust Steve at all. And he was just like, oh, okay, all right, can you elaborate? And I told him about the night. He was like, so you saw these guys? Yeah, and I don't know why. It just doesn't feel right. He was like, oh my God. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to put that. And I was like, well, yeah, whatever. Just letting you know. This is a heads up, whatever it is. So, and then later, because of my insomnia, it was one of those, I was up and Mike had gone to bed by that point, and their two daughters came down the stairs and, what are you two doing? Spoke with them for a little bit. All right, go to bed, go upstairs, good night. And then Christine wound up waking up, and she's like, oh, why don't we play with the Ouija board? No, let's not. Not while you're intoxicated on top of it. No. And she's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like, no. She put all this stuff out. I'm like, you're not going to listen to me, so fine, I'll do what I got to do. Fine. And so I did the ritual stuff, and then, stuff that came pouring out of every inch of that house. I look around, I'm like, I am so glad I did that ritual. What is that? And she looks at me and she goes, what do you see? So I describe what I see, and she goes, oh, because, like attracts like. And I went, uh-huh. What does that have to do with what I'm seeing? She goes, oh, well, and she explained how, or she reminded me how she was all like into Satanism and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. Okay. Your definition of not Satanism, your definition of is devil worshipping, which is completely different than Satanism. It's a massively huge difference. Because what you are claiming is not what Lucifer did. What Lucifer did is extremely different. You are not paying attention. You do not understand. The stuff I am seeing is demonic, and then I see the distinct difference of the angelic and and she goes, well, you're into fairies and stuff. I'm like, yes, I'm into fairies. I'm into quite a bit of things. However, I've seen demons before. I have. And if that's what you're into, Christine, you are in some trouble if that is what you are into. If you are telling me that like attracts like, wow. You're screwed. You are, And she was like, well, let's play with the Ouija board. I'm like, yeah, no. I want to take a look at this for a minute, because what the... I have seen some stuff before. I mean, that cemetery at Old Tennant Presbyterian Church, I have seen some stuff. What have you been playing with? Because no, what have you been doing, little girl? And Christine was like, no, I have seen various types of demonic stuff. you. Ooh. I mean, wow. I have seen some stuff. I have. And wow. I mean, wow. Like, wow. I mean, the grounds of Old Tennant Presbyterian Church, like part of the Battle of Monmouth was on those grounds. I mean, the field on the other side of the fence line of the furthest portion, when you're going up from Route 9, and instead of going all the way to Old Scots Hall, you turn left to going towards Freehold. And on the other side of that fence line, that's where the Battle of Monmouth happened, part of it. And the church was used as a hospital because it was on a hill. And I mean, wow, I have seen some stuff. And you've been playing with that? And she laughed. She laughed to me, and she's like, oh, they're not that bad. And I'm like, yes, they are. Yes, they are. Ooh, ooh. I've seen a lot of stuff, and that makes stuff that I've seen like fluffy and cute. Wow. You probably should reevaluate things right now, in this moment, and get your life together, because if you continue with whatever that is, I do not have words for that. I have read Dante's Inferno, and even the deepest portion of hell is not even close to that. Like the deepest level of hell that Dante wrote about is cute, like a little fluffy bunny compared to what you have been playing with. And she looks at me and she's like, oh, fine, just open up the circle and, you just, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I gotta, get rid of all this first. Ooh, I gotta clear this out, because your husband has been nice enough to at least let me stay here until my apartment is ready. Yeah, no. And so I, again, depending on what you believe spiritually, I clear that out, and, only the angelic and fairy stuff and all that fluffy, like actual fluffy stuff was left, and it's like, ooh, yeah, all right, yeah, now the circle can be opened. And so I open up the circle, and she looks at me, and she's like, so that was pointless. And I'm just, ooh, you should really sleep on that. Ooh, I was up the rest of the night. I did not sleep. Actually, I was up the rest of the weekend. I did not sleep. It's one of those. I have seen a lot of stuff, and that's just, whoa. And so I told Mike about it, and Mike was like, what do you mean? And I was like, it was bad. I don't know what she has been into, but it's been bad. Like, that's some serious stuff. And he was like, do you mind doing a little protective thing for my children? I was like, yeah, I got you, no problem. That's no problem. You're gonna have an issue with one of them. But, you know, nonetheless, for the most part, they'll be okay. But one of them's going to want to follow in your wife's footsteps, and stop her if you can. And so I did what I could, and then there was some other stuff later. I get into my apartment, and then Christine was like, "Oh, I want to be an Indian." Like, she decided one night, she told Mike that she just felt like being a lesbian. Those were her words. She felt like being a lesbian. I'm like, I don't think that's how that worked. I mean, you know, could have swore you just either are or you're not. I mean, there's bi, there's a few other types, I just don't have the words for them, but, and apparently that's pansexual and queer and a few others, and it's, all right, whatever, alphabet soup stuff, okay, whatever, okay, and so I could not get out of that house quick enough, and when I got into my apartment, shortly afterwards was when Christine did that sort of thing. Mike was able to stay at that apartment, and then I was no longer a part of the Jade Wolf Coven. And I was like, that's fine. That's perfectly okay. But just before no longer being a part of the Jade Wolf Coven, Christine had said that her favorite spell to perform, she had called Motherfucker of a Curse. And when she told me that, I was like, you better be careful. That makes sense as to that sort of stuff surrounding you. Because that stuff always comes back around. And when that stuff comes back around, you do stuff like that, ooh, if that gets reversed on you, that's literally going to get reversed on you, and then you have to deal with that. And I warned her. I said, understand that if that stuff hypothetically gets reversed on you, everything that you did to other people is going to come back to you. And you're going to deal with all of the stuff that you did to others to you. And you're also going to, those, whatever they were. Again, Dante put it so fluffy compared to what I saw that night. It's just, should not play with stuff like that when you don't know. And she did not know. She didn't want to listen either. And I was one of those, well, that's up to you. You can deal with that, and you can keep that all to yourself, Christine. Yes. And on that literal and figurative note, you guys have a good one. Go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com. Like and share and subscribe, and yeah, have a good one.